Dorian stayed over the islands for 24 hours, causing flooding and destroying homes. The number of people killed currently stands at 30, but officials are warning that hundreds, possibly thousands, are still missing in the Abaco Islands, which was one of the worst hit areas. Well, joining me to discuss this now from Nassau in the Bahamas is Paul Taylor, is the Operations Response Manager for Rubicon UK. Afternoon to you, Paul. Now, when you fly into devastated areas like this, I understand you got there on Wednesday, you don't really know what you're going to be facing. So just describe it for us, if you will.
Yeah, I mean, I've been in a number of these situations before, and the effects of a hurricane. So if you can imagine winds gusting at over 200 miles per hour, they're going to be picking up cars, turning boats upside down. Houses of substantial construction will have lost their roofs, but in the less well-developed areas, the houses will have been completely destroyed. So you've got the effect of the wind, and then from after that, you've then got the dump of rain, which obviously inundates the area. And then you've got, with that, brings the spread of disease and unfortunately people losing their lives through drowning.
I was reading there in the introduction that the death toll is expected to rise. Is that what you think?
I think so, yeah. Sadly, it's 30 now, but I'm pretty sure that I hope it's as low as possible, but I think it's likely that it's going to increase quite significantly.
So talk us through what you're actually doing. Oh, I think we have lost Paul Taylor there from the Bahamas. I guess, as you would expect, some of the lines there are still a little bit dicey. We will come back to it if we can. Some of the response operations there in the Bahamas after Hurricane Dorian there. And Paul, I was asking you just before we got cut off what you're actually doing there. What is your priority at the moment?
Okay, so I am part of a two-person reconnaissance team. We've been here for a couple of days, and what we're doing is working with the government, local NGOs and the international humanitarian community, collaborating. And for us, where we can have a real impact, we feel, is in logistics. So what we are going to do is we're flying in 10 of our grey shirts, as our volunteers are called. They'll arrive tomorrow. That will then be in 3 parts. 2 people will stay here as a liaison function. We'll then send a team, which I'll be leading into Abaco. We'll send another team into Grand Bahama. We'll be helping the local administrators there. As you can imagine, absolute chaos. We'll be helping them work through that and make sure that the aid that is donated goes to those most in need. And then once that's been established and hopefully that's up and running after a while, we'll then push out to what we call last mile logistics, and we'll find a way of getting to the more remote locations and people who perhaps find it difficult to get into those distribution hubs.
Yeah, I guess that's really part of the challenge, isn't it? Because normally you would try and centralise any of these operations, but when you're dealing with lots of different islands, that makes it problematic.
Yeah, there's the geographical spread of the islands, and then on each island there's the infrastructure which has been damaged. So roads will have been damaged. All that stuff we spoke about before, the effects of the wind, which will have blown trees down, houses, cars will be upside down. So it's going to be, initially, it's going to be difficult to move around. So that might initially be on helicopter or even on foot.
Huge amounts of rubble we've been seeing the pictures of there, of destroyed homes and buildings. Are you hopeful that people might still be pulled from that alive?
Yeah, I mean, normally, it all depends on, unfortunately, with the search and rescue element, is where you are when that happens. And if someone's trapped, it's not normally the fact that they're underground. It's normally the fact that when they were trapped, they didn't have any food and they didn't have any water. That's normally what they die from. So it's from dehydration. And
the area, obviously, accustomed to very strong storms and hurricanes sweeping in. What of the infrastructure there, some of the basic things like you're talking about, water supplies and sewage and all of that, is any of that still intact?
The water supply, so the wells will have been compromised. So as the floodwaters rise, the salt water would have gone down and from the storm surges, so that will have been compromised. So people are going to, for now, are going to need to be provided with clean drinking water. They're going to need shelter, as we mentioned before, because their houses have been destroyed. They're going to need food, and those people who have been injured because of the effects of the hurricane are going to need medical support. And increasingly, as more people arrive on the islands, as the road networks are opened up and as the floodwaters subside, we'll increasingly find more of those people as the days move on.
Yeah, you've got your work cut out for you. OK, Paul, thank you very much for taking the time in your busy day to talk to us on Sky News.
No problem. Thank you.
Now, the controversial former president of Zimbabwe, Robert Mugabe, has died aged 95. He led the former British colony to self-rule.